Tensions in the Middle East have sharply intensified after the United States carried out a major military strike on Iran's Kharg Island, a strategic oil export hub in the Persian Gulf. The attack targeted Iranian military facilities on the island, but deliberately avoided oil infrastructure, according to U.S. officials. Iranian leaders have responded with warnings of retaliation, saying the strike crossed a red line and could lead to attacks on energy infrastructure belonging to companies cooperating with the United States in the region. The strike marks one of the most direct confrontations between Washington and Tehran in recent years and comes amid a broader war involving the United States, Israel, and Iran that began earlier in 2026. Kharg Island holds enormous strategic significance for Iran's economy. The island lies roughly 27 miles off Iran's mainland coast in the Persian Gulf and serves as the country's primary oil export terminal. It handles about 90% of Iran's crude oil exports, making it the backbone of the country's energy industry. Millions of barrels of oil move through Kharg Island every day, and the site contains extensive storage tanks, pipelines, and loading terminals that connect Iranian oil fields to global markets. Because of its central role in oil exports, any damage to the island's infrastructure could significantly disrupt Iran's economy and potentially affect global energy supplies. Until the recent strike, Kharg Island had remained untouched during more than 2 weeks of escalating military operations between the United States, Israel, and Iran. Iranian officials reacted swiftly to the strike, warning that attacks on their energy infrastructure could provoke broader retaliation. According to Iranian state media reports, the country's armed forces declared that the attack had crossed Tehran's red line. Iranian military authorities warned that if Iran's oil and energy infrastructure were targeted in the future, energy facilities belonging to companies cooperating with the United States could become targets. The military Central Command issued a statement saying that infrastructure owned by companies working with Washington in the region could be destroyed if Iranian energy facilities were attacked. The warning highlights how the conflict could expand beyond military installations to include commercial energy assets throughout the Middle East. Just a day before the strike, Iran's parliamentary leadership had issued its own warning. Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, who serves as the Speaker of Iran's parliament, warned that an attack on Iran's southern islands would provoke a much stronger response. In a social media post on March 12, he cautioned that attacks on islands along Iran's southern maritime frontier would force Tehran to abandon all restraint. The warning underscored the importance of those islands to Iran's economic and national security interests. Analysts say Kharg Island sits at the center of Iran's oil export network, making it one of the most sensitive strategic assets in the country. The United States confirmed that the strike focused exclusively on military installations and avoided oil infrastructure. According to U.S. Central Command, American forces struck more than 90 Iranian military targets on Kharg Island, including missile storage facilities and naval mine depots. The operation destroyed numerous military sites but preserved the island's oil infrastructure. Shortly afterward, the U.S. president confirmed the attack publicly. Donald Trump said, "At my direction, United States Central Command launched a massive strike targeting military facilities on Kharg Island." He described the operation as one of the most powerful bombing raids carried out in the region. Donald Trump said every military target on the island was totally obliterated in the operation. Despite the scale of the attack, Trump emphasized that the oil infrastructure had not been targeted. Donald Trump said, "We chose not to damage the oil facilities for reasons of decency." Although the oil infrastructure on Kharg Island was spared, Washington signaled that this restraint could change if Iran interferes with maritime shipping in the region. The Strait of Hormuz, located near the Persian Gulf, is one of the world's most important energy shipping routes. A significant share of the world's oil supply passes through this narrow waterway. The U.S. president warned that any attempt by Iran to disrupt shipping there could trigger additional strikes. Donald Trump said if Iran or any other actor threatens shipping through the Strait of Hormuz, we could immediately target the island's oil facilities. The warning reflects growing concerns about potential disruptions to global energy markets. The Kharg Island strike is part of a broader military confrontation that has expanded across the Middle East. The conflict intensified after coordinated U.S.-Israeli operations against Iranian targets began in late February 2026. Since then, Iran has launched missile and drone attacks against several countries in the region, including Bahrain and Israel. In one notable incident earlier in the conflict, an Iranian drone strike targeted a U.S. military facility in Kuwait, killing several personnel. These attacks demonstrate how the conflict has spread across multiple fronts in the Persian Gulf. As the conflict continues, the United States has increased its military presence in the region. Reports indicate that approximately 2,500 U.S. Marines and an amphibious assault ship have been deployed to the Middle East as part of a broader military buildup. The deployments are intended to reinforce American forces already operating in the region and provide additional capability if the conflict escalates further. U.S. officials say the objective is to maintain deterrence while continuing targeted operations against Iranian military infrastructure. During a press interaction, the U.S. president described the situation in Iran as favorable to American forces.
Donald Trump said the situation in Iran is going very well. He added that American forces had delivered significant military blows. Donald Trump said a lot of big hits today, a lot of big wins today militarily. Trump also claimed the United States now holds overwhelming military superiority in the conflict.
Donald Trump said we are in a position of dominance that nobody's ever seen before. He argued that Iran's military capabilities had been severely weakened. Donald Trump said their Navy is gone, their Air Force is gone, most of their military is. While these claims have not been independently verified in full, analysts say Iranian military sites have sustained significant damage during recent operations. Preventing Iran from developing nuclear weapons remains a core objective of U.S. policy. The president reiterated that stance when discussing the purpose of the military campaign. Donald Trump said we had to end the nuclear threat in the Middle East and throughout the world. For years, Washington has accused Iran of pursuing nuclear weapons capabilities. Tehran has consistently denied those allegations, insisting that its nuclear program is intended for peaceful purposes. Nevertheless, the issue remains one of the main sources of tension between the two countries. The conflict has raised fears of instability in global oil markets. Because Kharg Island handles such a large portion of Iran's oil exports, any disruption there could have global consequences. Energy analysts say that damage to pipelines or storage facilities on the island could significantly reduce Iran's export capacity. However, by sparing the oil infrastructure in the recent strike, the United States appears to have sought to avoid immediate disruption to global oil supplies. Even so, energy markets remain sensitive to developments in the region. When asked about concerns from American voters about rising fuel prices, the president suggested that energy prices could eventually fall. Donald Trump said your gas prices, as soon as that's over, are going to come tumbling down. He added that energy costs could decline significantly after the conflict ends. Donald Trump said you're going to see a very big decrease in the price of gasoline, gas, anything having to do with energy. Economists remain cautious about such predictions, noting that wars involving oil-producing regions typically increase volatility in global energy markets. The United States is working closely with allies during the conflict, particularly Israel. However, the U.S. president acknowledged that Washington and its allies may not always share identical objectives. Donald Trump said, I think they might be a little different. Still, he emphasized the scale of American military power. Donald Trump said there's never been a power like the power of the United States. Despite the confident tone from Washington, the length of the conflict remains uncertain. When asked how long the war might last, the president said it would continue as long as necessary. Donald Trump said it'll be as long as it's necessary. He added that the United States believes it is ahead in the campaign. Donald Trump said we're way ahead of schedule. The strike on Kharg Island highlights the fragile balance between military strategy and global economic stability. By targeting military facilities while avoiding oil infrastructure, the United States attempted to send a strong signal to Tehran without immediately disrupting global energy markets. But Iran's warnings of retaliation suggest that the confrontation could escalate further. With missile strikes, naval threats, and economic pressure spreading across the region, the conflict has already become one of the most dangerous geopolitical crises of the year. For now, Kharg Island remains operational as Iran's oil lifeline, but its role at the center of the conflict means the world will continue watching closely as the crisis unfolds.